and welcome to our very first episode of our Festive Celebration interviews, brought to you by the Business of Data and Corinium. All throughout December, we will be going live, sharing some fantastic interviews from our data and analytics leaders. I'm going to be asking them, how has 2021 been? What's on their data and analytics wish list, and what they're going to be thinking about as they head into 2022. We strongly encourage you, share this live stream with your network. Sharing is caring at this time of the year. Also, feel free to jump into the comment section and let your thoughts and feelings be known about the content, and also whether perhaps those wish list items are on your wish list as well. But for now, let's dive into the first episode. Nurali, great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. I am feeling alive with the joys of the festive season, and I'm so glad that we get to catch up today. What I want to start off with, Nurali, is how's your year been? Been a busy one for you?
Oh God, don't ask me hard questions like that. How's it been? So it's been a year since I started here at OpenReach. It has been a massive learning curve, having switched industries, but also just growing my team. So I feel quite content and satisfied coming out of this year. My leadership team's filled, my team culture is set up and running. I've spent a lot of time with revisiting processes within our organisation, as well as going, what is our culture, what are our values, and trying to generate and reinvigorate a whole function for us and get that going. It has been massively busy. That I feel like I can't even realise it's a whole year's gone. We were in lockdown this time last year, and now it's like, actually we're out and we can go shopping. And saying that, at the weekend I popped over to some Christmas markets and thought there were people about. So actually, yeah, it's been great. And on a personal note, I've got a son that's going to secondary school, so I don't know where that's gone either. So not only have I been learning a new job, but a whole new routine at home. But I think it's been a brilliant year, to be honest, one of the best so far.
Amazing. I love to hear that, both professionally and personally. How exciting. And I mean, this is why I love doing these sorts of interviews, obviously getting to wear a hat and being a little bit silly, but also it's a great moment that we can just stop and pause and actually reflect, because I know leaders like yourself are often moving at such a pace that perhaps you're not always afforded that opportunity to just pause and think about the last year you've had. And as you say, where we were this time last year was, a pretty sad place for most of us personally, not knowing if we can meet for holiday gatherings, whatever that may look like for our audience and for ourselves. So as you say, a much more positive time. And I'm excited that you've really been able to get on with your culture building and all of the things that I know you are very excited to do this year. And I'm sure continuing into the new year as well. But the main question I have for you today, Nurali, is what is on your data and analytics wish list? I don't know who your family looks to, whether it's Father Christmas or someone else, but what would you be asking them for this year?
So I kind of went with my festive theme. I thought, I'm putting a hat on, let's think Christmassy. And actually on my wish list is an inventory of Santa's sack. Yeah, and then I'd like to back that up with some network analytics of how he designs his routes. And the reason this is on my wish list, because this is actually, if I convert it into the world that I live in, is I would love to have an inventory of the data assets and the systems that I've got within our business. And then how can I use that to make the efficiencies for our engineers, and at the end of the day, our customers, people like you and I who are using broadband day in and day out, how can I make that service better? How can I use insight, analytics, and further the work that my team have done already around sort of modelling and looking at orders and stuff like that. But how do we do that quicker, faster? I would love for genuinely some way of getting that inventory kind of process done in a non-laborious fashion, because it feels like every time I talk to somebody, they're like, yes, we have to go and write it down, and we have to do this, and we have to do that. And I'm like, there has to be a way, right, that we could just magically sparkle some fairy dust over it all, and it comes together, for me. So then I can get on with the real meat on the bones of what can we do better for our customers and connect you, right? If you've got a fault, or you've got your internet's down today, I want to get into a position where I can get it reconnected for you in the next several minutes, let alone 24, 48 hours. That's the dream. How do I do that is the challenge at hand, and that's the task I've set the team. They also asked me, next year, what would success look like? And I went, well, this time next year, this is what success looks like. So let's not go too far. So that was number one. My second one, and don't ask me, this is one I asked my guys, which can we do some diagnostic analysis on the taste of chocolates at Christmas time? Chocolates are completely scrumptious. So what makes them scrumptious? What makes them brilliant? And I think these are generic questions that as a data leader and as a data function, we ask of ourselves every day. So what makes things work well? What makes a brilliant outcome? How do we use AI? How do we use robotics to do that? And how do we actually just turn our businesses around to go, what is the problem that we're trying to understand versus automatically going, this is the robotics is the solution, or a dashboard is the solution. And just understanding that real simple, what makes it good, and then how do we scale that up in the world that we live in today. And those are my two. I haven't got a huge long list.
I was bracing myself. I feel like for these interviews, I really should have put a clause in saying that I can't guarantee that these wish lists are going to get delivered. But on that first one around the efficiencies, and I can completely understand, I mean, in so many other areas of our life now, we just come to expect a quick resolution, especially with something as crucial as broadband, as you mentioned there. We're both working from home today. If the broadband goes down, I put my teeth back in, that's us potentially off work and not being able to do our job. So an incredibly important thing. Now, is it that you are striving as an organization to be that much in front, or is that pressure coming from your customers as well, that they're wanting, things fixed quicker and your team are now having to respond to those demands?
It's actually both of those. So we've done surveys with our customers, the end users, people like you and I, and they see, broadband's like the third utility service next to water and electricity. So they're like, well, hang on a minute, I can't. It's not only about the working from home and the COVID year that we had previously, but it's also the whole Netflix dependency, PlayStations and Xboxes, all the online stuff that we do. I'm shopping on Amazon, especially this time of year, right? We've got Christmas presents and all that. We a lot of us just do it all online nowadays. We don't buy it, not many of us go always into stores for that. So there's this continuous dependency. But if you think about fundamentally, not even just this time of year, a lot of health trackers. So for our, for parents, the elderly, we've got telemetrics devices that depend on the broadband. So it is becoming it's critical infrastructure that wasn't originally critical infrastructure. So from a customer perspective, they want it on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. From an Openreach perspective, we want to give it to the customer 24/7, 7 days a week, all the time. So we want it as well. So it's a double pressure for me to get. And the answer seems to be that it's in the data. And goes back to my original question is, well, what is in my data? So I know what I'm looking for to help you, achieve that goal and target.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me laugh, your second point about the taste of Christmas chocolates and what makes them scrummy and yummy. And I'm not going to name the brand because I don't want them coming after me, but there's a certain brand of chocolates we all know where a particular type of that chocolate normally gets left in the tin, and there's normally that one family member who likes them, so you just pass them to them. And I think there's a comparison there for dashboards, that there'll be one dashboard that circulates, it's still included because one particular person thinks that it's important, but really it's just kind of left in the tin. What are you going to be doing to identify kind of that side of the scale with those chocolates or dashboards that perhaps they don't need to be in there, or rather they could be an individual thing that one person goes and gets?
And so the mantra that I've set and I want to carry on with my team and with my business is, if you've got something and the answer is 80% of what you need, right? Let's just leave it at that for now and let's get on to the next thing. Let's really challenge ourselves. Let's really ask us, why do we need it? What decisions are we making of it? And it comes back to the inventory question. We're working in a position where we're saying, right, for everything we produce, I want to know what action the business is going to take of it, or what decision. And if I can't have a list of things saying, these are my data products, these are the decisions they support or make, and there isn't a decision or an action, then actually that data product no longer has a life. Yeah. So how do you regularly go back and recheck those things? And as back to chocolates, when I was younger, I liked certain brands and certain types of chocolates. And now I've got more refined taste. So as you learn and you adapt and you evolve in an organization, your tastes become more refined. So therefore you need to become refined. And actually any successful organization needs to be, I hate saying it, but need to be agile. We need to continuously improve, continuously learn, and move into a position. Actually, can we stop creating dashboards, and can we create an environment where the business can self-serve, so they understand data enough to ask the right business questions and then get the answer out of an environment that we've created for them to do that. Obviously, I'm not sure if I'd love, that's the other sort of, can I get to that stage? Can I educate them enough and drive that culture to ask the right questions, so we're not being asked for a dashboard, and we don't have that last chocolate in the tin. In my house, that doesn't last, by the way, just letting you know. There will be somebody that will go steal that last chocolate.
I love that. I absolutely love that. The final question I want to ask you today, Nirali, is for our audience tuning in with us today. What do you want them to go into January 2022 thinking about for the rest of the year? Any kind of big pieces of advice you could give?
Catherine, I'm a big culture person, and that's what I think about a hell of a lot of. So actually, I think I would ask everyone to go into January and go, just really ask yourself, why do you need this, and is it in line with your business strategy? Yeah. So when you're doing that piece of work, when you're looking at something, just if you don't role model that kind of sort of thought process around why, what does it achieve, then you can't. Everyone else around you doesn't kind of end up role modeling it either. So I think that's my only thing is actually, when you begin to do a piece of work, do the 5 whys and say, what do we need it for? What business decision is it going to make? Because actually it gives you the space to get onto the more interesting and innovative bits of work as well, but also helps you learn the businesses that you're in. So that's my tip. Ask why.
Amazing. Nirali, I wish you a healthy and happy holiday season. I look forward to catching up with you in the new year.
And same to you, Catherine. Thanks for today.
Hartnell, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Kat?
Well, I am increasingly I'm loving doing these interviews with our leaders. And to be honest, Hartnell, I'll be honest. Those glass dealy boppers are blowing my mind, and I want to know where I can get some. I think they're fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'll send you one pair.
Oh, I'm holding you to that now, because I think that's brilliant, and I will definitely be sat on all my Zoom meetings bobbling my dealy boppers, which will annoy everyone, but I don't mind because it's Christmas. But amazing! Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of our festive celebration. It's a really great series of content, so I'm so glad you wanted to be involved. And I mean, the first question that I'm asking everyone is, how has your past year been for you?
Okay, a good question. I can say in one brief word, resilient. 2020 was a year whereby we actually had some challenges in the data world. Number one, by people working from home, we had to actually still give value to business. By working remotely, we had to change our approaches of unraveling new opportunities for business. So 2021 is all about bouncing back. I think from the start of the year, we have been embedding our new ways of working. I can tell you most of my team members are actually still working remotely and majorly working from home. But it's just pleasant to see that, one, we have adapted. We have been able to use more agnostic tools. I can say our infrastructure has moved away from just basic warehouses. We're now using the cloud. We're now also able to depend more on business users because you have deployed self-service analytics solutions. And it's all because COVID was able to give us that opportunity. So business people are now eager to learn more, eager to have the grasp of data in their hands, and we're actually able to deploy different kinds of solutions. Also within the data space, I think it was an opportune time for my team and myself to be able to give value with regards to how we can tackle the shocks created by COVID. So supporting the risk teams with regards to identifying how the future outlook on business is going to look like, supporting our frontline teams on identifying better ways to sell to their customers. I believe that has just been a concoction of different opportunities. And I think we are steadily bouncing back. As people are now getting used to managing COVID, and number two, people are getting vaccinated. Then I think everyone now is coming out. Businesses are actually spending the money they had held, and we're trying to see exactly how much more we can be able to give to our business counterparts just to create value and more value to them.
Yeah, I think what you've done so well there is you've balanced the light and the dark, right? You've said, you've really acknowledged that obviously the pandemic has been incredibly challenging and all the challenges with that, but actually the outcomes that are so important as well. And I think it's really interesting you bring to light the business use cases and people really wanting data and how that has progressed your growth as well as an organization. Something that I think many people in the audience will agree with, will have experienced themselves, and hopefully something that's going to go on to next year. But the main question I've got for you today, Hartnell, is what is on your data and analytics wish list?
Wow, it's the festive season. Santa has to deliver. So I think I'll just give a few. I have a very long list, but I'll give a few. I think the first one is literacy. Please, Santa, I do want all my business counterparts to be very data literate. I think literacy has been something very key for most organizations. We can't only depend on specialists and experts in data. So I want more people to actually be very literate with regards to data. Number two, I believe Agile now is a practice. My second wish is actually to have more cloud native applications on data. I believe we are all moving to the area whereby insights are now required faster. It should be easy for us to quickly deploy solutions online and just be able to get the insights we require at a click of a button. So using traditional warehousing methods, I think it's fading off. So cloud native data solutions is the way to go. My third wish will be, I don't want any more legacy issues. I believe the only challenge to advancement these days is saying that we do have some legacy issues as an organization. And I think, please, Santa, take that away from me. It would be so pleasant to just see that we're actually able to come up with new ideas, solutions, and just deploy them on the go without having to think about any kind of legacy issues. And maybe the last one is just looking at partnerships. I think I want more people to actually collaborate and be able to give their data. And yes, considering that we do have privacy laws in place, but I think it's time for us to actually see what extra data points we can use from the external world to actually create more value to our businesses and our customers. That's my wish list.
I love that. I love that it's numbered as well, very efficient. And I think some of those wishes really link into each other as well, right? You're talking about literacy and talking about buy-in from everyone. I mean, it's a very, very cultural ask that you're asking. And I mean, what sort of steps do you think you're going to want to take to make these wishes come true for yourself when it comes to literacy? What's the sort of approaches you're hoping to take?
So I think it's all about making sure that business understand that they are responsible for the advancement on data literacy. I think the only downside to data literacy these days is that people think it's actually supposed to be delivered to the business, but it's actually a self-initiative. What we are going to do as data experts is give the right kind of tools, the right kind of content, give the right kind of simple explanations for people to understand how to actually advance in their literacy journeys. But I will actually go out there and be an evangelist starting next year, just speaking more to people about, we do have to move actually very fast with regards to changing our business, transforming to new market segments, and taking a possession of new ecosystems. So I need people to actually learn on the new technologies, new ways of using data to create value, new ways of using data to actually give yourself information and insight to be in the know.
Yeah. Now, you also mentioned about having legacy systems and the challenges that come with that. You'd like that to disappear. And I mean, I think we both know in reality, we can't quite make that one come true. But what is going to be your strategy for actually perhaps maybe going close to it in the fact that you are putting some of those bigger challenges to rest so that you can focus on the future? I mean, what's your thoughts around that?
I can tell you, anyone who did not refresh their data strategy after 2020, I think you are bound to fail. I'm not really praying for any bad omen on you, but I think number one, we did this recognize that we can't really keep on blaming legacy systems and legacy ways of doing work. So one thing for organization that is very clear, we have actually been able to accelerate our program of moving and adopting more cloud solutions. Number two, we have gone into more open source distributed computing systems that enable you to quickly be able to pilot and try out new kind of business propositions on the go. And yes, we will still continue supporting our previous systems on our previous mainframes and data warehouses. I think most of our core systems that support our customers are still sitting in there, but we should start thinking about how to create new propositions, new opportunities, new value on this new infrastructure that is actually being used by everyone. So even if you're talking about how are you able to partner with different kinds of third parties, then you have to think about what platform should you use. I believe you're on the right step and the right journey because one, adopting Hadoop, which is under the Apache Foundation, and it's a easily deployable distributed computing system for you to use for different kind of purposes. I think the three musketeers, Google, Microsoft, AWS, are already doing a very good job with regards to creating easily deployable infrastructure for you to actually be able to deliver any kind of business proposition. So that's my plan, and it will be actually in the main strategy for us as we move on to 2022 and onwards.
Yeah, and well, that's a nice segue into the last question I've got for you today, Hartnell, which is for our audience who are tuning in today, what would you suggest they should be thinking about going into 2022 to make it a really successful year?
I have to repeat it again, partnerships. I think we have gone to a level, we have actually reached to a level whereby we have exploited most, if not all of the data that is sitting within our data lakes and data warehouses. And it's time to actually see how can we create new forms of synergies. So I'm already piloting a few methodologies. I'm already identifying some fintechs. And these days, it's not about identifying a fintech and seeing them as a competitor. Actually bringing them to the table and telling them, how can we actually have a revenue share split by combining our data points? It's clear that customers now are more agnostic to using web tools, to using new kind of mobile apps and devices. The more data you can actually get about them, the more accurate are your models with regards to being able to predict this. So it's just clear for me that, you know what, we actually have to come together. And that only works with the right kind of data collaboration. The second thing I'll actually tell people is that you have to think about not only maturing your business, but also changing the skills of your experts in data. Technologies are shifting by the day. We were talking about business intelligence less than 3 years back. Now people are talking about decision intelligence. We're talking about data science. Now you're talking about artificial intelligence and model ops and AI ops. I am getting requests from my team to actually train them on this new fourth industrial revolution technologies. But I think we have to be more proactive and go out there and start changing the roles of our data experts. As our business are actually becoming more literate, we have to go back and say, how do we change our normal scientists to actually become an AI engineer and stop just building simplistic ML algorithms and go more into deep learning solutions that can actually benefit and create new kinds of opportunities for the business. And number three, as I said, just make sure you refresh your strategy. There are new types of customers who are coming on board. People who do not want to walk to banks. People who want not only digital solutions, but also want more collaboration. So you're seeing more social media kind of applications coming on board. It's because people now, after retracting to their homes and this new way of living, then they're seeking for not only simplicity in transacting, but also collaboration. So mass purchases, mass collaboration kind of solutions actually will make sense. So change your strategy, start looking at the new types of ecosystems coming on board and see how to target them. That's my plan.
It's always such a treat to hear from you. Thank you so much for sharing today. And I do wish you the most amazing festive season. And I look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Thank you so much, Kat. And it's a pleasure being part of the show as usual. Thank you.
Premal, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, Catherine. How are you?
I am very, very good. Thank you very much. Now, my first question for you today is, how has 2021 been for you?
2021 has been an absolute roller coaster. It's clearly, we've been a business that's obviously been impacted by COVID, but really pleased to say that, we've come out fighting on the other side. So the second half of 2021 has been a lot better than the first half, which is great.
Yeah, no, you do well to divide it, because I think we do kind of put it as a year, and 2020 as a whole was, majority was in lockdown, whereas, as you say, 2021 is a bit of a mixed bag, that actually some of it, obviously your business has been open, and some of it you have had to be in lockdown still, so a bit of a mixed bag. Now, the second question, and the main question I've got for you today is, what is on your data and analytics wish list?
My wish list is all around expectation management. So I see, or I've seen kind of data analytics, AI, data science, all the buzzwords, kind of explode over the last, 24, 36 months, which is absolutely awesome. But I think one of the key things that I've learned is, all of these things around data and data science, you kind of only get out really what you put in. There isn't a magic bullet or something that is going to come out of the ether just like that. So I think businesses really looking at data as they do with any other asset. I think is going to be really, really important, and setting that expectation right up front, both from a kind of a supply and a demand perspective, I think it's going to be really important.
I love that. And I love how you mentioned Magic Bullet on an interview all about wish lists and Father Christmas, which makes me giggle. But obviously, we know that there isn't any kind of quick fix. You can't go into a boardroom and wave a magic wand and suddenly everyone understands kind of the time things take, that empathy towards data, analytics, processes, technology, and all of those fun things. So what are going to be kind of your active steps that you take in this direction to kind of rein people in a bit without muffling their excitement for data analytics, as you rightly say, they have now created through the COVID period where people become data hungry? How do we encourage that, but also, as you say, keep those expectations in line with reality?
I think it's a mixture of being able to balance kind of short-term delivery versus long-term kind of foundational building. And I think marrying the two together, I think, is really important. So how do we make sure that we're generating outputs that are adding value today, but how do we make sure that we're building something that is fit for purpose for the future? And how do you get the balance right in terms of how do you prioritize resource across both of those, just so that you're kind of, making sure that you've got something to deliver today and that you've got something potential and exciting for the future as well.
And I mean, we're here at Business of Data and Corinium, we hear the term future-proofing so much at the moment. What is your method for thinking into the future and looking into the future? What are the sorts of activities that you do to predict what the business will require in the future?
I think one of the things I actually do is to try and not look too far forward ahead. So I kind of operate on a kind of an 18 to 24 month timescale. I think really predicting the data analytics future beyond that is really, really difficult. And, my experience has proven that trying to look anything beyond that is really difficult. So the real answer is predict the near-term future as opposed to kind of looking at kind of 4, 5, 6 years out, which is really tricky.
Absolutely. And this is something I've heard from another colleague across the pond. I recently did a podcast episode with Dr. Justin Smith, and he was saying that actually whilst he was in education, whilst he was getting his doctorate, his job that he now has didn't exist. And that was only 3 or 4 years ago, that when he was in education, the job that he now has didn't exist. So I think you're absolutely on the money there to suggest that looking too far in the future, I mean, that's anyone's game to guess, really, because we just don't know what is going to evolve and adapt. And I think that's the fun part, right, of data analytics, is that it's constantly evolving. And then with that challenge of not potentially being able to look that far in the future, again, how do you then bring in the expectations of the business, who perhaps are used to other departments being able to produce a far longer in terms of time growth plan and strategy plan?
I think for us, the key word here is trying to be genuinely agile. And I don't mean that from a methodology point of view. We know that business practices change. We know that technology is changing. We know that platforms change. We know that customer behaviors often change. So how can you build a team and a set of resources that are genuinely able to adapt and be agile to adapt to those changing needs? And that really is quite tricky. But the truth of it is that if you don't really know what the future is going to look like, then being able to pivot and change and adapt is actually quite critical.
Yeah, and it's certainly something you are passionate about. I know obviously we caught up earlier in the year at our Business of Data Festival, which to our audience you are still able to view on demand. If you head over to the Business of Data platform and pop over to the festival, you can register there to view the on-demand content where we talk actually in a panel discussion all about culture and buy-in and also the strategy of being agile and looking to the future as well. So do go and check out that piece of content. But Rob, before I let you go today, my last question is, as you look forward to 2022, what are the big barriers and hurdles you can see coming your way that you're excited to take a running sprint at?
I think clearly COVID has made a bit of a mess from a data perspective in terms of, historical data is clearly something that we need and use and utilize to project forward. And it's always great to have, a long list of kind of historical data that is reliable. Now, clearly, we have, a patchy set of data over the last 18 months or so. So how do we start getting smarter about that? How do we kind of use, synthetic methods or other methods to be smart about being able to extrapolate and predict out? So I guess in 2022, we're going to have to figure out, how we continue that extrapolation, how we continue that prediction, how we continue the optimization, albeit that the historical world isn't quite as perfect as it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would be your advice to the audience today? What do you think they should be thinking about, bearing in mind that we're talking all over the world in lots of different industries?
I still think that, there's a huge amount of opportunity in data analytics, data science, AI. I think the key is to get started and actually, get those small steps underway if you haven't already. If you have, then just continue building on that. It's an iterative process. So I would say, just continue on that path.
Amazing. Well, I wish you the happiest and healthiest festive season and a very happy new year. And I look forward to catching up with you so soon.
Brilliant. And thanks to you, Catherine.